Thank you so much. I am very excited to be here, and I do want to try and get a bit real about platform engineering and what all this buzz is, and what we should really be taking away from platform engineering today. And so we're at a conference all about DevOps, and I'm talking platform engineering. The last of the lightning talks talked platform engineering. It wouldn't be crazy to wonder why we're talking platform engineering at a conference about DevOps. It'd be a reasonable question to ask. But I'm hoping to be able to answer that question throughout the rest of this talk to where you can see it's a clear progression. So to get to that point, we have to get past the buzzwords. And while platform engineering is a buzzword, so is DevOps. So we need to get real about what is DevOps, not just in theory, but in practice, based on my experiences, based on the industry's experiences, and particularly at scale. So I'm going to talk about that a bit. I'm going to also talk about the aspirations of platform engineering, because it, as a movement in the industry, is newer. We are still at the stage of aspirations over anything else. But I want to talk about that at scale as well. And then I want to talk about services. What are services? Why do services apply to platform engineering? And how is it difficult to provide services, especially when you're talking about internal organization ones? And finally, I do want to touch on some of the patterns I'm seeing evolve in the industry today that are going to help us with actually delivering the benefits that we want to achieve from both DevOps and platform engineering and internal services that we want to help with our developer experience and delivery of software. So unfortunately, to get past the buzzwords, we have to go back to the first buzzword. So we have to start at Agile. Promise, it's just really quick, where we talk about the fact that the point of Agile was to bring people together. It brought together the people who thought up the products that we wanted to deliver as a company with the people who actually build it. DevOps wanted to extend that. It said that DevOps took the hippie practices of Agile and brought them into technology, because a bunch of people who were sitting in the sort of infrastructure side of technology were realizing that those same silos, those same challenges of communication and collaboration were happening within technology and not just between the business and the tech teams. And the thing is once we started seeing silos, we ended up seeing them everywhere, right? We saw them within technology, we saw them within different business units, we saw them across different business units and into technology themselves. This was what bore DevSecOps, which soon became DevSecTestOps, which soon became DevSecTest Marketing, Fin, Green Ops, and I don't know what other words have been added, right? It's become almost a meme that you can just put a word in between DevOps and someone will have tried to coin it for their product or to sell something, right? And try and reduce those silos. Because the reality is that there are silos when you get enough specialties in an organization. So Patrick, who we were all lucky enough to hear earlier today, had something that he wrote up a couple years ago. Turns out this is one of his most quoted things, and he's like, I just threw that out. Found that out today. And I was like, yep, well, I'm going to quote it too. And he said that the current definition of DevStarOps is everything you do to overcome the friction created by silos. This is what we talk about with DevOps. It's what we talk about with any silos in the business and in technology. And how this brings us to one of the kind of common statements around DevOps is that DevOps reduces the friction between silos using automation, collaboration, fast feedback, and iterative improvement, using and delivering those things. Now, one way to reduce friction is to reduce silos. If you don't have a silo between people, between roles, between specialties, then you don't have friction between those specialties, roles, and deliverables. This is what brought us the idea of full stack. I don't care if it's full stack engineer or full stack team. This is the idea of saying if you bring everyone around the same table, or you bring all the skills that you need to be successful around the same table in one person or in a group of people, you will inherently have better collaboration, better feedback, and more iterative improvement. Thing is that idea of a full stack team or a full stack engineer as a part of the DevOps story isn't all the full story. I think we're here, I've heard some conversations through different people here today that I think there's some other feelings about what this feels like in practice, right? And so I have a story I want to share that might capture and resonate with some of you that is based on my experiences. And this is actually a story of telling my partner about this talk and about the intention of coming to a conference like the DevOps Conference and how DevOps and platform engineering work together. And you see, my partner isn't a software engineer, but he's sort of technical, and so he's a good kind of playground to try out these kinds of stories on. And he's a particularly good cook. And so a lot of my stories that I try and work on with him are analogies for cooking. So we went on our dog walk. This is Zeno. He's a little terror. And I said to him, now imagine you want to cook something new. You know, you're always quite creative in the kitchen. But because it was new, you needed to get a few extra things. And when you needed those extra things, like maybe you needed a new ingredient, you could ask for that ingredient and you could get that delivered to you. You'd request and you'd wait for it. It is not limited to ingredients. You can get anything you need. So if you need a new pan, sure. You can ask and wait for that to get provisioned for you, given to you. And I said, you're able to request anything. We as a duo are able to request anything. But the thing is there's no promises on what comes back. It's going to be best efforts, right? Like if you request an ingredient, it may be out of season, so they'll give you a substitute for it. But also there might be miscommunications. You might ask for parsley and think you're getting flat parsley, and instead you get curly parsley. Well, that's a fair mistake, right? Like, it was not clear in my request. Sort of looked at me. He's like, I know how this works. You're setting me up for failure. Come on, get on with it. What next? I said, of course, don't worry. I said, DevOps is here to help. No more asking. He said, great, that was short. Back to our walk. And I said, now wait. Nothing comes for free. We know this in the world today. So while we don't need to ask for anything else to be able to cook this new meal, we also can't. We're on our own, you and me. The thing is that me and him, we've just got ourselves a garden in the last couple of years. Turns out these thumbs aren't green. But if we need an ingredient, better get learning because we need to plant that. If we need a new knife, he's a big fan of that Forge and Fire show, if you've ever seen it. Well, here's your chance. Fire up that forge, make yourself that knife. Sort of sighed, just said, well, that's stupid. And this quote is literally why I put that story in. So I was like, that was just the most perfect response to my experience when I get told I need to make things all by myself when they just aren't part of my journey of providing value within my role at an organization. And this is the thing, is that every team doesn't have the skills or interest to deliver every capability. Just because someone can be a master sushi chef and be able to wield a knife with precision and skill doesn't mean that they know how to make one. And that's okay. And now some of you in the audience are gonna be like, but I like it. I love getting into the nitty gritty. I love doing everything from top to bottom. And you know what? That's okay. But we have to have a think about if that is the most secure and cost-effective way to operate for our businesses, right? If you do like doing that, there's plenty of small stage startups. I'm sure they'd love to have your skill. But when you get to a certain scale and size, that level of autonomy, that level of responsibility becomes debilitating. That requirement to understand how to provision and secure and keep up to date a database, while also making sure that the user interface, CSS, looks great across every mobile device, geez, that's tough work, right? And so this is true that this autonomy gets particularly difficult at scale, and that's what I'm talking about. Now, I say all of that, but I'm not coming up here at a DevOps conference asking to get tomatoes thrown at me. I'm not coming here to say that DevOps is dead or that DevOps is a failure and that we need to move on from it. I'm actually saying that DevOps is effective, it's enjoyable, and it's something that we can continue to leverage and do, but we need to think about what it looks like in different scenarios, what it looks like at scale. In my opinion and in my experience, platform engineering is what enables those DevOps principles at scale. When you're working in a platform engineering world, you have application teams that build, deploy, monitor, and are on call for their applications. Simultaneously, you have platform teams. These teams build, deploy, monitor, and are on call for their applications. The application teams depend on the platform teams, just like your business customers depend on your application teams to be responsive to any issues, to extend the functionality, and make things better for them. These are the DevOps principles. These are the fast feedback loops. These are trying to support your customers first and foremost. They're just at different layers of the stack. So we return to this kind of small phrase about DevOps, and I know there's a lot of definitions out there, but I think this captures a lot of the intention. And if we want to try and see that we don't fall back in those trends of increased friction between these different teams, the thing we need to interrogate about this is the word collaboration. It's not that collaboration is bad, it's just how does that work when you now re-divide out the experiences or the kind of parts of the stack between the application and the platform. And the thing is collaboration is one way of interacting. These are 3 interaction models that have been codified by the book Team Topologies. That book was released in 2019, and I think does a really good job of kind of codifying and classifying a lot of the things that we've been doing around the industry for years. And that's what great books do, is they build on the things that we've seen work time and time again, but they give us a common language to be able to talk about it and to be able to grow from it and to be able to see that as a pattern into different organizations. And these 3 collaboration modes of collaboration or interaction modes, collaboration, exit as a service, and facilitation. The thing is collaboration has its strengths and its weaknesses. Collaboration is optimized for building empathy and exploration. It is about taking 2 humans or 2 groups of humans and putting them together in a room, sharing their context, sharing their constraints, and sharing their goals, and coming to the best possible outcome given all of those inputs. And that can only be done through that human-to-human interaction, that human-to-human learning. That is where collaboration shines. But humans scale at human rate. In contrast, X as a service pattern, interaction pattern, that is where we optimize for scale and autonomy. With the X as a service, you no longer have that human-to-human interaction. You now have an interface, like an API, that allows for producers and consumers. And they talk through a codified interface, and they no longer have that human-to-human connection. This enables scale and autonomy. This is the kind of thing that allows EC2 on AWS to scale to where it is today, right? You're not calling someone up and asking for a machine. It's all through an interface. But what happens when that interface doesn't meet your needs as a consumer? The thing about these interaction models is they're not static. You as a person, you as a team, you aren't just a facilitation team or just a collaboration team or just a service team. In reality, the things you work on actually evolve across these. And that's the power of these different models. You start with that human-to-human interaction, that problem solving through the context and the challenges that you face. And then you evolve into facilitation to see how that starts to scale out. How can you support more than one use case, more than 2 use cases, and so on? And you start to see people kind of pulling on this solution until you can codify that as a service. So, while platform engineering enables DevOps principles at scale, it does so by transitioning understood offerings from collaboration, that design phase, through to a service phase, through to being able to work across interfaces that don't require human-to-human interaction. That is what platform engineering is doing. So you do have to talk to your customers. It's not just automation, but the goal is to get there. So this is like then the talk title, right? What platforms are trying to do is provide something as a service. Whatever that something is, we'll talk about some of the examples, but it's internal to your organization and unique to your organization often. So slightly more kind of formal definitions of platforms. This one's by the CNCF Platform Working Group, which I'm a part of. It's a cross-domain, cross-vendor, cross-all the things group that's trying to help, again, codify language so that we can work together and pull in the same direction. Talks about platforms as a collection of capabilities. These capabilities create a cross-cutting layer in your organization that contains the typical things that your organization requires and is applicable across many of the broad set of use cases within your organization. So this is not something you're building for the one-off use case. This is something you're building for the common use case in your organization. And it's not just one solution, it's a collection of them. Now, we get to that point in this talk where you've been sitting here for a few minutes, and you're probably thinking to yourself, but Abby, isn't this just optimizing internal tech or ops services within an organization? And I actually slipped there, because you were much more polite than that. I heard it in your head. You said just, but you were very polite in your ask. Because this is the biggest challenge right now with the conversations around platform engineering. Aren't we going backwards? Aren't we going back to a world where the centralized ops team is in charge of giving out things that are being asked for by other teams, that they are the gatekeepers of things? Isn't this the problem? And you can understand why. There's a lot of hype around platform engineering today. There's even hype around it's killing DevOps and all these things. And with hype comes the challenge of actually deciphering what's going on at the core. This feels like a rebranding. This feels like a rebranding of what was first ops and then became DevOps and then became SRE and is still just centralized teams being a bottleneck for your organization. And depending on if you just rename the same team and give them the same resources and the same training, maybe that is what it will be at your organization. But I think there's potential here to talk about what it can be. Because we've seen rebranding before in the industry. We saw it with observability being tagged as a rebranding of monitoring and then exposing that there were opportunities to improve there. We've seen it in lots of different kind of scenarios throughout the years. But with this rebranding, we need to dig into what is the differentiator between this scenario and the past scenario that makes it not just stamp a new title, get a new paycheck, and move on, right? So that brings us to that X as a service. If platform engineering is all about providing services, let's look a bit deeper into that. At the end of the day, providing services is really hard work. That's what I want to talk about today, because services are actually outside the scope of just developer experience or your developer teams. Services are something that we all as just humans already depend on and have expectations around. We expect to be able to pull our phones out and say, "Okay, Google," or "Hello, Siri," and get an answer in a second. We expect to be able to load up our favorite TV provider of choice and immediately get access to thousands of movies that won't buffer once in the middle of watching them. We expect to not have to talk to a human whenever we want to do anything on the internet, right? Booking hotel rooms, booking flights, all of this should just be done through services. And the thing is just because you've gone to work for the day doesn't mean you can turn off that part of your brain. Doesn't mean you can stop that expectation that things should be able to be done simply and easily on your schedule without being dependent on other people. So today, customers and therefore software developers expect a few things from services. They expect services to be discoverable. When was the last time that you found out there was a new restaurant in town that you had no idea about because it wasn't on the food delivery app, but you walked by and was like, "What's that?" But because we're so used to being able to go and look at a single location and being able to discover what we need to, we expect that from our services. We expect it to be self-service. What this means is that I shouldn't have to ask for help to get something done. I should be able to understand how to use something myself and not depend on asking someone else to explain to me how to do it or help guide me through that. But even more than that, it's more than just being able to do it myself. It's actually getting the resource in response or the outcome in response on demand. So I had to book a dinner reservation for tomorrow night. And I was looking around at options of where to book. And there were a few restaurants I was interested in. But in order to book with them, I had to give them a call or I had to send them an email. Now, I'm self-service on that. I can pick up the phone and dial them or I can send that email myself. I understand the process. But the thing is, I was doing this at 11 o'clock at night before going to bed, and they weren't open. So now I had to either set myself a reminder to be able to call them in the morning, but only after they open, and it's a dinner restaurant, so I have to wait till 2 p.m. and all these things. Or I go to the next option. I go to the option that means I can book and get confirmation immediately. It's an on-demand offering, and that's what I did, because that's what I expect from services. The final thing about services is that they're managed. That means that I don't have to care about how this thing is going to be resulting. I don't have to care about how this restaurant keeps track of my reservation. I don't have to care how they keep up to date on these things and GDPR issues and all of these things. I just know that I'm going to show up and have a tasty meal with some good friends tomorrow night, right? So everything's managed for me. These are the characteristics that services require. And we're being asked as internal service teams, as ops teams, DevOps, platform, whatever the team in your organization is called, to provide all of these capabilities, because this is what humans depend on at this stage. At the end of the day, internal platforms, internal services are products, and these products are providing services. And we need to treat them that way. So let's dig into how we can do that. So we talk about X as a service as the way in which we provide these services. This as a service pattern is something we've seen up and down the stack for years and years. Hardware as a service started with, rack space and things like that, being able to get servers, but we as consumers also use it. Anyone who leases their cell phone and can just give it back when they drop it in some water and get a new one, that's like hardware as a service, right? We're used to this kind of a process. Infrastructure as a service revolutionized the ability to get started quickly in software. You're able to get VMs and databases and things from the cloud quickly and easily. And of course, platforms as a service already have existed for over a decade. I think Heroku was particularly popular in 2012-ish, so over a decade. And that is what allowed us to deliver software quickly. And we'll dig into that one a bit more. And of course, software as a service, which I bet everyone in this room uses it for their email or their calendar or something else. They depend on just loading up a website and using it. These are all as a service models at differing levels. And so we need to talk about platforms as a service if we're going to be talking about platform engineering delivering services. It feels like this has already been done before. And it has. There's been a generation of these. They proved to us what's possible. They gave us an easy-to-use interface. They solved our problem of needing to be able to deliver our software quickly and securely. It reduced our maintenance risk because we didn't see the servers behind the scenes anymore. We didn't have to manage them. And it provided us flexibility because all of a sudden you could start with a really simple web application, then realize you needed some persistence and get a database as well. And then when you take off because you end up on the front page of Reddit or something, it just scales for you, right? So it gives you that flexibility of sort of growing into it, right? Gave us an idea of what's possible when we deliver software. When you're getting these experiences and these outcomes, you have to think about how you want to pay for them. This is the build and buy decision. This has been true for years, and it's true for all sorts of aspects of our software. And boils down to the fact that what you want to buy is anything that's non-differentiating. Anything where your competitors are doing exactly the same thing as you, you don't want to be building that yourself. You want to be buying that because that isn't how you're going to win the race in your domain against your competition. You want to just buy that and focus your energies on building the things that actually differentiate your business. So what does that look like? This is a screenshot from a popular PaaS today, platform as a service today, and it talks all about the different features you can get. And a lot of these are non-differentiating, right? Delivering software requires test environments. Delivering software requires observability and support and reliability and security. And if you're willing to talk to a human and not be on demand about it, you can get even more. Just go enterprise. But there's just so much up here that we need that is not differentiating, and that is powerful. So why does everyone say that's dying? Aside from the fact that everyone in software likes to say that things are dying at all times. Heroku apparently is dying in 2022. At this point, it had already been talked about for years, and yet it's still there. It's a great product. They'll still take your money, I promise. Go check them out. Thing is that came after the wise Kelsey Hightower in 2017 made the statement that he is convinced the majority of people that are managing infrastructure want a PaaS, but it has to be built by them. You know you're in a room full of developers when they giggle at that, because there's a little bit here of not invented here syndrome, right? I want CV-driven development. I want to build something because I like writing code. And there's a little bit of that there. The thing is, it came back again in 2021. I mean, developers haven't changed that much. Developers still like to build their own code, still like to do their own thing, don't like to buy stuff. So we still got that. But Jason Yee responded with, everyone wants to build their own Heroku. There has to be something else under this that's more than just developers like to write their own code. It's also because what we've learned is all those behaviors that we got from the PaaSes of the past and the current are things that we need and want, but they don't quite fit. They don't quite fit within our organization, and that's a problem. That's our learning. In the first generation, we learned that if you can use another company's processes, you should. Go buy it. Your monthly cost to Heroku, Cloud Foundry, all the different PaaSes, Vercel, all the different PaaSes that are out there is going to be significantly less than the cost of your engineering effort to build, maintain, and extend your own custom solution. But when you do that, you buy in to whatever processes that platform provider, that PaaS provider, has codified. That's what you get. So not everyone can do that. Who can't do that? Companies that are in particularly high regulated industries. Companies that have significant history in their processes, and changing those is just not going to happen. I talk about the fact that process is often the scar tissue of past experiences. Some companies have a lot of scar tissue, right? And everyone can look at that scar tissue and say, this is silly. We could get rid of all of that and just use this off-the-shelf thing. But it doesn't actually work that way, right? You're going to have somebody asking you for their process built in to that off-the-shelf thing, and you're going to have to wrap it and manage it and do something with it. How did we end up here? We ended up here because that first platform as a service movement gave us services without giving us collaboration first. I want to hearken a guess that somebody from Heroku didn't come to your company and talk to your engineers and to your business team and to your security team about how you deliver software and build their platform as a service for you. And even if they did, if you're at an organization that worked closely with them, you probably didn't get exactly what you asked for. It's still a global product, right? You're getting a service without the collaboration of what you want behind it. So, if you're in that world where you'd love to be able to buy something off the shelf, but your organization just can't do it, you're in a world where you need to build. You need to build to enable your processes, your experiences, and your business, and your value. That is what you should be building. So, when you're not willing to outsource the way that your dev team works, the developer experience that you have at your organization, the business processes that you follow for security and for delivery, you have to build your platform in your way. That doesn't mean you have to drop all the way down to the very beginning. So let's talk about what you're actually wanting to provide. Platforms as a service, but in pieces. You want to orchestrate a number of internal services that are on demand, self-service, managed, and discoverable. They want to have the same outcomes that these platforms as a service have provided in the past. They want to be easy to use for the application developers who depend on it. They want to solve the problems of your business that your company cares about. They want to be able to grow with your organization and with your teams as they need more flexibility and more unique use cases. And they want to reduce your maintenance risk for both the users of the platform and the creators. We don't want to just create a mess for the poor people who are managing your infrastructure and your platforms. Problem is how do you do that? How do you now essentially go from a monolith to a microservice world and maintain a user-friendly and unified experience? Same challenges that we faced in software, we're now facing in platform delivery. The only way we can do that is by having better developer experience. And no, I don't mean application developer experience, even though they seem to have co-opted that word. For some reason, web app developers are the only ones who have experience that we can worry about today. But there's so many other developers out there. There's infrastructure engineers, data engineers, platform engineers. They all have experiences as well that we need to be thinking about and supporting. And the thing is that platform engineering developer experience today is pretty poor. And we know that bad developer experience creates bad user experience. If you've ever had to create something with poor tools, you can look back at the experience you've delivered for your users and probably notice some places where it leaked through, where the frustration and the amount of energy you had to put in just to get it to work means that then the users didn't get as polished an experience, as great an experience. If anyone here either uses or provides Helm charts or Terraform modules or Ansible playbooks, you know what I mean. Are these good user experiences, or is these just the things that we can manage given how much other requirements are on platform engineers today to get repeatable, reusable, secure delivery of internal services, right? Like, I'm an infrastructure level engineer, and if someone was like, here's this fantastic way to do something, you just have to write some CSS and JavaScript, I would just look at it and be like, what? No, that's not my world. And yet we turn around and do the same thing up to them. It's just YAML. Yeah. How many people need a website to pay some YAML into to figure out where the spacing's wrong, right? It's like, this is not a good user experience. But honestly, the number of people I talk to and the amount that I have handed out those experiences feeling really good about myself, the amount of people I talk to that go, you're right. I hadn't thought about that because I've been so busy worrying about all the other requirements on my plate. The requirements of making this on demand, of making this self-service, of making this secure. Those have taken up my energy, and now I sort of am out of energy for the user experience. This is the pattern that I'm super excited about today. This is the pattern I'm seeing our industry move towards. And this is not a new pattern. This pattern of having frameworks that offload some of those building blocks is something we've gone through with software engineering. If you're a software engineer, you may be used to using Rails with Ruby or using Spring Boot with Java. And if you've been around before using those frameworks and after using those frameworks, you'll know that there's a very big difference between what it looks like to create a web application that speaks to a database and accepts HTTP requests before and after. I say Rails create new or Spring Boot start adding @ everywhere in my code. And I don't have a web app that has the business logic and value of my company built into it. But I do have the ability to quickly and easily speak to a database, accept requests, and get working on the things that matter. So here are some frameworks that I think are going to be really exciting to follow. So Backstage is one that we're seeing from the user interface. I think it was spoken about maybe in Stockholm. I don't think we got a talk here. It is JavaScript. Sorry, infrastructure engineers. You do have to learn JavaScript. But it gives you a way to create that unified front-end experience, if that's what your organization needs, through a framework without having to build a whole new navigation panel and everything else. You get some consistency, some discoverability. Now, not everything can be done through a UI. So things like Cobra, and there are lots of examples for all these, but Cobra is one I've used for making a CLI. So that world where you need to be able to call something from your CI/CD pipeline, great. You can create a CLI. Now, the power behind these two is that they're interfaces. And what have we learned from software engineering? Don't put business logic in interfaces. They're powerful as an interaction mode. They are not where you want to put your business logic, because otherwise you're recreating all of your logic when you all of a sudden have to make a mobile app. or in our case, at the more infrastructure level, when you all of a sudden have to make a request from the CI/CD pipeline. So what you want behind the scenes is consistent ways of doing infrastructure as code, which you can use cross-plane, and that gives you drift detection and auto-reconciliation and lots of power there. And you also need to think beyond just infrastructure and also all those business processes, all that scar tissue in your organization. And that's what I'm trying to build with Kratix and trying to give a way to codify those APIs. So some of these frameworks will matter for some of you, some of them won't. But I think this idea of having frameworks that offload the heavy lifting and let you get back to your business logic is what we've been needing in the infrastructure space. And it's what platform engineering depends on to get past this rebranding phase and into providing of high value. So as a wrap up, DevOps has always been focused on reducing friction. I think we went a little off track by focusing so much on just reducing the silos. In certain organizations that works, but at certain scale, it's about reducing friction while maintaining specialties, but while maintaining those different groups, because that's okay at those scales. Platform engineering is an implementation of DevOps, not a replacement of it. It focuses on building products with DevOps principles so that you can enable teams to build on the shoulders of giants internal to your organization and not just external. And whenever we're building any product, including a platform product, you want to focus on differentiating only where it's valuable. So leverage where you can. If you can do 90% of your work on an off-the-shelf platform as a service, do it. If you can buy your cloud compute and depend on cloud providers, do it. If you can use SaaS, software as a service, do it. Leverage what you need to and only focus on the differentiating factors that you care about. And hopefully, frameworks will allow you to integrate those purchased options into what you need to customize. And so when you do need to customize it, use those DevOps principles. Make sure to think about maintainability and extensibility as you're building. So everyone who is codifying all their business logic into these new fun portals, maybe go home and have a think about where you want your business logic and whether or not you can imagine a world where your users also want a Slack bot. And maybe it'd be good to be able to keep that logic somewhere accessible. So with that, I hope we have gotten rid of some of the buzzwords and gotten into some of the value that platform engineering has the ability to give to us as an organization and where we need to be focusing our energies as an industry in that space. Thank you very much. And that's a QR card for the slides.